The Cosby Show was once the untouchable pinnacle of family television, a warm embrace that promised us the perfect American life. But time has peeled away the veneer to reveal a rotting core of tragedy. Beyond the infamous scandals that destroyed its legacy, a deeper shadow hunted the cast, bringing financial ruin, debilitating diseases, and shocking premature deaths that wiped away their smiles. The Huxtable home is empty now. Join me as we uncover the heartbreaking true stories of the stars we lost, proving that behind the laughter, darkness was always waiting. Earl Hyman, born on October 11, 1926, portrayed Russell Huxtable in The Cosby Show in 1984 at 58. To the world, he was the beloved Grandpa Huxtable, the wise reciting patriarch who anchored the show's moral center. But behind the warm sweaters and Shakespearean recitals lay a man living a life of profound duality and artistic frustration. Hyman was a titan of the stage, a Norwegian-speaking scholar who conquered Othello, yet he found himself defined by a sitcom role that paid him a fraction of his worth. While the main cast members were negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts and syndication royalties that would set them up for life, Hyman was compensated as a recurring guest star. Industry estimates place his fee in the range of $5,000 to $7,500 per episode during his early appearances, a respectable middle-class wage, but a pittance compared to the billion-dollar empire his gravitas helped legitimize. He never married and had no children of his own, a bitter irony for the man who became America's grandfather. He lived a solitary life in New York, often feeling the sting of being an intellectual giant, trapped in the medium of television comedy. He dedicated his life to the theater, but the theater does not pay like Hollywood. He lived comfortably but modestly, far removed from the lavish lifestyles of his on-screen son. Earl Hyman passed away on November 17, 2017, from kidney failure at the age of 91, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $3 million, a quiet legacy for a man of such thundering talent. Earl brought the wisdom, but he needed a partner to bring the warmth, a woman who fought a failing heart to keep the family together. Clarice Taylor, born on September 20, 1917, portrayed Anna Huxtable in The Cosby Show in 1985 at 68. As the matriarch of the Huxtable clan, Taylor brought a fierce, loving energy that balanced Hyman's stoicism. However, her journey to that brownstone was paved with decades of struggle in a segregated industry. By the time she landed her signature role at age 68, she had spent a lifetime fighting for scraps in a business that rarely wrote roles for black women of a certain age. Her financial compensation reflected this character actor status. Despite being the heart of the extended family, her earnings were strictly contractual guest fees, likely capping at around $10,000 per episode in the later seasons. She watched as the show generated hundreds of millions in ad revenue, while she remained a guest in the house she helped build. Her private battle was far more physical. For the last years of her life, she waged a silent, terrifying war against congestive heart failure. She would film scenes radiating joy and strength, only to collapse into exhaustion the moment the cameras cut her heart, struggling to pump blood through a body worn down by age and the relentless grind of show business. She worked until she physically couldn't, driven by a fear of irrelevance and the need to secure her family's future. Clarice Taylor passed away on May 30, 2011, from heart failure at the age of 93, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $2 million. Clarice was the steady heartbeat of the family, but the community center had a different pulse, driven by a late-blooming star who laughed to hide his pain. Lou Myers, born on September 26, 1935, portrayed Mr. Davis in The Cosby Show in 1987 at 52. Joining the cast later in the series, Myers became the breakout fan favorite. the curmudgeonly but hilarious foil at the community center. His rise to fame was a Cinderella story in reverse. He didn't achieve national recognition until he was in his 50s. Before The Cosby Show, he was a struggling cabaret singer and stage actor, often living paycheck to paycheck. His role as Mr. Davis brought him visibility, but not the fortune fans assumed. As a recurring supporting character introduced late in the game, his starting salary was likely the Screen Actors Guild minimum, plus a slight premium estimated at roughly $4,000 per episode. He didn't share in the massive initial syndication windfall that the core family members enjoyed. Behind the distinct laugh and the comedic timing, Myers was a man whose body was failing him. He survived a severe heart crisis in 2005 that nearly killed him, a wake-up call that the stress of the industry was taking its toll. He spent his final years battling pneumonia and heart issues, a frail shadow of the energetic man who mocked Cliff Huxtable. He was a talented singer who wanted to be known for his voice, but died known only for his jokes. Lou Myers passed away on February 19, 2013, from heart-related complications and pneumonia at the age of 77, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. Lou brought the comedy, but our next guest brought the rhythm, a jazz legend who walked a lonely road to a solitary death. Joe Williams, born on December 12, 1918, portrayed Al Hanks in The Cosby Show in 1985 at 67. Cast as Claire Huxtable's father, Williams wasn't just an actor, he was musical royalty, the legendary voice behind Count Basie's band. His presence on the show validated its jazz-centric aesthetic, bridging the gap between bebop and sitcoms. However, television was merely a side gig to his grueling reality. Williams made his living on the road, a relentless touring schedule that kept him away from home for months at a time. His fee for The Cosby Show was a special guest star rate, likely around $5,000 to $7,000, which was pocket change compared to the physical toll of his music career. The tragedy of Joe Williams is the tragedy of the road warrior. He spent his life singing about love and heartbreak for strangers, often sacrificing his own health. In 1999, his end came in a way that was shockingly lonely for a man so beloved. After collapsing on a city street in Las Vegas from a respiratory illness, he walked out of the hospital against medical advice, determined to sleep in his own bed. He made it home only to die alone a few blocks from the strip that had made him famous. It was a stubborn, solitary exit for a public icon. Joe Williams passed away on March 29, 1999, from natural causes at the age of 80, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $5 million accrued from thousands of lonely nights in hotels. Joe played the cool father, but he left behind an on-screen wife who was the epitome of grace, a Broadway queen who faded into the shadows. Ethel Ayler, born on May 1, 1930, portrayed Carrie Hanks in The Cosby Show in 1984 at 54. As Claire's mother, Ayler brought a quiet, regal dignity to the screen, grounding the show's more chaotic moments with a single look. A veteran of the original stage production of Fences, she was a heavyweight talent used in a featherweight role. Her financial compensation was typical for the era's recurring matriarchs, steady but far from lucrative. Industry standards suggest she earned between $3,000 and $5,000 per appearance, a sum that reflected her status as support rather than star. The true tragedy of Ethel Ayler lies in her invisibility. Despite being a crucial part of the most popular family in America, she remained largely unknown to the general public, her name often omitted from retrospectives. She lived a life of intense privacy, shielding herself from the celebrity machine that consumed her co-stars. When she died, it took weeks for the news to even reach the mainstream press, a heartbreaking final indignity for a woman of her stature. She passed away as she had lived quietly without fanfare, slipping out of the world, while the reruns of her face continued to play in millions of homes. Ethel Ayler passed away on November 18, 2018, from natural causes at the age of 88, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $2 million. Ethel was a quiet legend, but the next guest was a supernova, a man who broke every barrier in Hollywood before coming to the Huxtable house to say goodbye. Sammy Davis Jr., born on December 8, 1925, portrayed Ray Palomino in The Cosby Show in 1989. When the Candy Man walked onto the Huxtable set at age 64, he was not just a guest star, he was entertainment royalty, a member of the Rat Pack who had broken racial barriers in Las Vegas. However, the man who could do it all, sing, dance, act, was concealing a devastating secret behind that famous glass eye and wide smile. By 1989, Davis was financially decimated. Despite earning over $50 million during his career, his lavish generosity and crippling gambling debts left him virtually broke. For this iconic appearance on The Cosby Show, he was paid a standard, top-tier guest fee, likely capped at around $5,000 to $7,500, a humiliating sum for a man of his stature, yet money he desperately needed as the IRS circled his estate. But the true tragedy was physical. During the filming of this episode, where his character struggles with illiteracy, Davis was suffering from the early stages of throat cancer. The voice that had charmed the world was slowly being eaten away by the disease, a cruel irony for a man whose entire identity was built on his vocal power. He was performing through the pain, hiding the terrifying reality that his final curtain was rapidly approaching. Just months after this appearance, he would lose the ability to speak, entirely silenced by the very vice smoking that had been his constant companion. Sammy Davis Jr. passed away on May 16, 1990 from throat cancer at the age of 64, dying in debt to the IRS, leaving behind a tangled financial legacy rather than a fortune. Sammy's appearance was a final bow, but he wasn't the only legend using the show to say goodbye. Our next guest gave his very last performance on this stage. Danny Kaye, born on January 18, 1911, portrayed Dr. Burns in The Cosby Show in 1986. Appearing as the dentist in the episode The Dentist, Kaye was 75 years old and a giant of cinema known for White Christmas and The Court Jester. This role stands as a haunting historic marker. It was the final acting performance of his entire life. The financial disparity here was staggering. Kaye, who had once commanded the highest salaries in Hollywood and raised millions for UNICEF, accepted this role for a union scale fee estimated at roughly $2,500. He didn't do it for the money. He did it to prove he could still make people laugh. But behind the slapstick energy lay a frail old man whose body was quietly shutting down. Kaye was suffering from the long-term effects of hepatitis C, contracted from a blood transfusion during heart surgery, and severe heart complications. The manic energy he displayed on screen was a final burst of adrenaline from a dying star. Off-camera, the beloved clown was known to be a deeply complex, often moody and isolated figure, struggling with the reality that his golden era had long passed. He summoned every ounce of his remaining strength to play Dr. Burns, masking the physical agony of a failing heart to deliver one last punchline. Danny Kaye passed away on March 3, 1987, from heart failure and internal bleeding at the age of 76, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $15 million. Danny Kaye was a king of comedy, but our next guest was the Queen of Grace, a woman who fought a lifetime of racism to stand in the Huxtable living room. Lena Horne, born on June 30, 1917, portrayed Lena Horne in The Cosby Show in 1985. She appeared as herself in the episode Cliff's Birthday, an acknowledgement that she was a living monument to African American resilience. At age 68, Horne was timelessly beautiful. but her presence on a sitcom came with a heavy historical weight. In the 1940s, she was the first black performer signed to a long-term contract by a major Hollywood studio, yet she was paid a fraction of her white counterparts and often edited out of films shown in the South. For her appearance on Cosby, she received a standard guest stipend of approximately $5,000, a symbolic figure that could never repay the career wages she had been denied due to the color of her skin. Her life was defined by a tragedy of isolation. She famously said she was isolated from white people because they were white and I was Negro, and isolated from Negroes because I was the white man's Negro. Behind the elegant smile she wore for Cliff Huxtable was a woman who had survived the McCarthy blacklist and the devastating loss of her husband, father, and son, all of whom died within a single 12-month period in the early 1970s. She carried a deep righteous anger beneath her poise, a sorrow that no amount of applause could heal. Lena Horne passed away on May 9, 2010, from heart failure at the age of 92, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $30 million. Lena brought the grace, but our next guest brought the noise, a jazz giant whose swollen cheeks were a badge of honor and a sign of damage. Dizzy Gillespie, born on October 21, 1917, portrayed Mr. Hampton in The Cosby Show in 1984. In the episode, Play It Again, Russell Gillespie brought his bent trumpet and puffed cheeks to millions of living rooms. At age 67, he was one of the founding fathers of bebop, a musical genius on par with Bach or Beethoven. Yet the economics of jazz were cruel. While rock stars of the 80s were earning tens of millions, a legend like Gillespie was a working musician, constantly touring to maintain his lifestyle. His fee for The Cosby Show was a modest guest rate of roughly $3,500 to $5,000, a humble check for a man who revolutionized music history. The physical cost of his genius was etched onto his face. His trademark ballooning cheeks were actually a medical condition called laryngocele, a deformation caused by the immense pressure he applied while playing. He literally destroyed the tissue of his face for his art. Behind the jovial, scat-singing persona was a man fighting the inevitable decline of the jazz era, working tirelessly to keep the genre alive as commercial tastes shifted. His final years were marred by a battle with pancreatic cancer, a painful and rapid disease that silenced his horn forever. Dizzy Gillespie passed away on January 6, 1993, from pancreatic cancer at the age of 75, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $4 million. Dizzy blew the horn, but he needed a heartbeat to keep the time, a drummer who saved the future of jazz while his own health faded. Art Blakey, born on October 11, 1919, portrayed the drummer in The Cosby Show in 1986. Appearing alongside other jazz greats, Blakey was the engine of the hard bop movement and the leader of the Jazz Messengers. At 67 years old, he was still the most ferocious drummer in the world, mentoring young stars like Wynton Marsalis, who would go on to become millionaires. Blakey, however, lived a life of financial instability. Despite his legendary status, he was never a wealthy man. He poured his earnings back into his bands and battled a heroin addiction in his earlier years that drained his resources. For his cameo in Cosby, he was paid the standard AFTRA minimum, likely around $2,000, a fleeting paycheck for a man whose rhythms defined a century. The tragedy of Art Blakey was physical erosion. He was nearly deaf by the end of his life playing, by feeling the vibrations rather than hearing the notes, a cruel fate for a musician. He kept touring until his body literally collapsed, driven by the need to pay bills and the refusal to stop swinging. He died just 4 years after this appearance, a warrior of the kit who played until the very last beat. Art Blakey passed away on October 16, 1990, from lung cancer at the age of 71, leaving behind a modest estate estimated at less than $500,000, rich in legacy but poor in cash. Art Blakey was a musical partner to the stars, but our next actor was a partner in a different sense, Bill Cosby's real-life best friend, who shared the screen in 2 different decades. Robert Culp, born on August 16, 1930, portrayed Scott Kelly in The Cosby Show in 1987. His appearance was a nostalgic thunderclap for television history buffs, reuniting him with Bill Cosby, his co-star from the groundbreaking 1960s series I Spy. In that golden era, they were equals, but by 1987, the financial dynamic had shifted violently. While Cosby was earning millions a week as the owner of his show, Culp was hired as a special guest star. His fee for this reunion was likely a premium rate of approximately $10,000, a respectful sum, but a microscopic fraction of the empire he helped launch decades earlier. Culp's tragedy was one of being perpetually overshadowed. He was a brilliant writer and director who often felt uncredited for the cultural heavy lifting he did alongside Cosby. He spent his later years as a working actor, appearing in Everybody Loves, Raymond never achieving the mogul status of his former partner. His end was shocking and violent, a stark contrast to his cool, sophisticated persona. On a quiet morning in Los Angeles, he went for a walk outside his home and suffered a massive fall, striking his head with fatal force. He bled out on the pavement, a sudden, lonely death for a man who had spent his life in the spotlight. Robert Culp passed away on March 24, 2010 from head injuries due to a fall at the age of 79, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $5 million. Robert was a partner from the past, but our next guest was the man who made that past possible, a legendary producer who stepped in front of the camera for a rare cameo. Sheldon Leonard, born on February 22, 1907, portrayed Dr. Wexler in The Cosby Show in 1985 at 78. To the casual viewer, he was just a grumpy old doctor, but in reality, Leonard was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood history. He was the executive producer who originally greenlit I Spy, effectively launching Bill Cosby's career. His appearance here was a role reversal of epic proportions, the master working for The Apprentice. For this cameo, Leonard was paid the standard Screen Actors Guild day rate, likely around $350 to $400. It was a symbolic pittance for a man whose production royalties from shows like The Andy Griffith Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show had generated hundreds of millions of dollars. The irony was palpable. He was arguably the richest man on the set, yet he was listed on the payroll as a day laborer. His tragedy was simply the relentless march of time. As the architect of the golden age of TV, he lived long enough to see the industry change into a corporate monster he no longer recognized. He died just as the medium he helped invent was transitioning into the digital age, a titan fading into history books. Sheldon Leonard passed away on January 10, 1997 from natural causes at the age of 89, leaving behind a massive entertainment estate estimated at over $20 million. Sheldon represented the old guard of power, but our next guest represented the raw, unfiltered spirit of Broadway, a woman whose voice was as rough as her life. Elaine Stritch, born on February 2, 1925, portrayed Mrs. McGee in The Cosby Show in 1989 at 64. Known for her gravelly voice and brassy attitude, Stritch was a Broadway legend who brought a tornado of energy to the Huxtable household as the children's teacher. However, her transition from the stage to the sitcom screen highlighted the financial disparity of the arts. While she was a queen on Broadway television, treated her as a quirky character actress. Her fee for The Cosby Show was likely a standard guest rate of roughly $3,000, a humble check for a woman of her caliber. But Stritch's life was a constant battle between her immense talent and her inner demons. she was a functioning alcoholic for decades, famously drinking to cope with the crippling insecurity and loneliness that plagued her once the curtain fell. She suffered from diabetes, a condition she often neglected in favor of her party girl lifestyle. Her tragedy was the silence of the empty room. She spent her final years in Michigan, far from the lights of New York, fighting the fear of being forgotten. She was the life of every party, but she died fighting the quiet. Elaine Stritch passed away on July 17, 2014 from stomach cancer at the age of 89, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $5 million, earned one hard-fought show at a time. Elaine had a voice that could shake the rafters, but our next guest possessed a voice that would eventually enchant the entire world, hidden behind an animated crab. Samuel E. Wright, born on November 20, 1946, portrayed Dr. Dan Morgan in The Cosby Show in 1986 at 40. 3 years before he would become immortal, as the voice of Sebastian the Crab in Disney's The Little Mermaid, Wright was a hard-working journeyman actor grinding for roles. In this episode, he played a colleague of Cliff Huxtable, earning a paycheck that reflects the harsh reality of pre-fame life. His fee was likely the union minimum of roughly $2,000 for the week, a staggering contrast to the billions of dollars in merchandise and box office revenue his voice would later generate for Disney. Wright's career is a study in the voice actor's paradox. Millions of children knew his soul, but few knew his face. He brought joy to generations with Under the Sea. Yet he lived a relatively modest life in upstate New York, far removed from the glitz of the billionaires who profited from his vocal cords. His final act was a quiet 3-year battle with prostate cancer, a disease he fought largely in private. The man who sang about life being better under the sea spent his final days in pain on land, his death leaving a void in the childhood memories of millions. Samuel E. Wright passed away on May 24, 2021 from prostate cancer at the age of 74, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $3 million. Samuel gave voice to our childhood fantasies, but our next actress voiced the ultimate authority figure of the 90s, a woman who commanded the screen until she was suddenly taken. Lynn Thigpen, born on December 22, 1948, portrayed Mrs. Hudson in The Cosby Show in 1991 at 43. Before she became the terrified subject of internet searches as the Chief in Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Thigpen appeared in the Huxtable world as a figure of strength. She was the consummate working actor, reliable and powerful, yet rarely paid what a star would command. Her appearance on Cosby likely netted her around $300-500, a standard fee for a non-recurring guest in the 90s. The true tragedy of Lynn Thigpen is the shocking suddenness of her departure. She was in the prime of her career, starring in the hit drama The District, finally achieving the mainstream recognition she deserved. One evening, she complained of a severe headache, a symptom she and others dismissed as stress. Days later, she was dead. A cerebral hemorrhage struck her down instantly, silencing one of the most commanding voices in the industry without warning. There was no long goodbye, no final bow, just a brutal, abrupt cut to black that left her co-stars and fans devastated. She died with contracts unsigned and scenes unfilmed. Lynn Thigpen passed away on March 12, 2003, from a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 54, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $1.5 million. Lynn was a figure of authority and strength, and so was our next guest, an intellectual giant whose deep voice carried the weight of Shakespeare. Roscoe Lee Brown, born on May 2, 1922, portrayed Dr. Barnabas Foster in The Cosby Show in 1986 at 64. With a voice that sounded like it was carved from granite and velvet, Brown was the epitome of the dignified intellectual. He appeared as a professor in the episode The Card Game, bringing a level of sophistication that elevated the sitcom format. Despite his Emmy-winning pedigree and a career spanning classics like The Cowboys, Brown was often pigeonholed into supporting roles, never given the leading man status his talent warranted. His fee for The Cosby Show was a respectful guest rate of approximately $5,000, but this pales in comparison to the salaries of less talented actors who fit the leading man mold better. He was a man of immense culture, a poet, a former track star, and a teacher who often found himself overqualified for the roles Hollywood offered. His tragedy was the slow erosion of his body by stomach cancer, a disease that attacks the ability to nourish oneself. The man with the booming voice and the imposing presence withered away, fighting a battle he could not win. He worked until the end, refusing to let the disease strip him of his dignity. Roscoe Lee Brown passed away on April 11, 2007 from stomach cancer at the age of 84, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $4 million. The credits may roll, but for the cast of The Cosby Show, the darkness didn't end when the director yelled, "Cut." It lingers, a chilling reminder that fame often comes with a terrible price. Now, I turn the question to you. Was this truly a sinister curse that hunted them down one by one, or just a series of cruel coincidences? Whisper your theories in the comments below. I read everything. If you have the courage to uncover more of Hollywood's buried secrets and blood-stained legacies, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell into the darkness. Until next time, remember, the truth is often scarier than fiction. Goodbye.